Hey, welcome everybody. We just want to thank you all for taking the time to come out tonight and help us get our new year off to a great start. Our mission around here is to make more and better disciples, and when you choose to serve in kids ministry, that's exactly what you're doing. You have a unique opportunity as small group leaders to build meaningful relationships with people who come in our church buildings week in and week out, and they're all just beginning their journey with God. Reggie Joyner said, Jesus reached the world by leveraging the influence of common people and empowering them to do uncommon things. So thanks for being a part of what God's doing at Northridge and the lives of the next generation. We just want to take a minute to introduce ourselves. My name is Melissa Van Heukelum, and I've been involved in kids ministry at Northridge for the past 9 years in a wide variety of roles, including a small group leader. And I'm currently the small group coordinator for the Irondequoit campus.
And I'm Keaghan Hultquist, and I started my journey volunteering here at the ARC at the Irondequoit campus. Then I ventured over to Webster about a year ago and have enjoyed coordinating over there, High Point. So we just wanted to spend about 20 to 25 minutes tonight sharing with you some of the big picture vision for what a small group a small group leader is all about. Some practical applications as well. Our goal is to inspire you about the significance of your role, equip you to perform effectively in your role, to challenge you to fulfill your role even better this year. The second half of our breakout, we will come talk to you guys on our specific campus teams. Nate Logan will be joining us to go over some things with the Greece leaders as well. So there is a blue sheet in your orange folder that you may want to grab right now to follow along some notes. So let's get started. Take a look at this video clip.
So, we have a challenge, a big challenge. Most studies today indicate that at least half of students will walk away from their faith in college. Why? It's simple. They have a pseudo, immature, green, borrowed, or fragile faith. They're young, and they have a lot to learn, a long way to go. They have yet to experience life at its fullest. Their faith is, to some degree, unchallenged. So what's the solution? Well, this is where you come in. Your goal is to raise kids with a stronger faith, with what we call authentic faith. We want a generation to grow up holding on to faith that is rooted in Scripture. We want kids who place their trust in God, not only in a moment at VBS or on the last night of camp, but every day. Most of us believe the best way to make a big difference is to get a big following. But what if the things we consider big don't matter as much as we think? What if the biggest difference is made not by doing something big at all? What if the biggest things are really accomplished by doing something small? If we aren't careful, we can work so hard at leading big, we never experience the power of leading small. When we lead small, we realize that what we do for a few will always have more potential than what we do for many. When we lead small, we simply make a choice to invest strategically in the lives of a few over time so we can help them build an authentic faith. So go ahead and start changing lives. And if you need a little more explanation, don't worry. We're just getting started.
So our primary goal is that we want kids to have a big faith. And we believe the very best way that you can cultivate a big, authentic faith is through leading small. What we do for a few will always have more potential than what we do for many. That's what small group's all about. When you lead small, you make a choice to invest strategically in the lives of a few over time to help them build an authentic faith. That's what makes small groups so important, and that's what makes your job as a small group leader essential. Overtime can look like a couple different things. It can be simply serving weekly, regularly, consistently spending time with your few in order to build meaningful relationships. Some small group leaders choose to move up with their few every year so that they can continue their relationships over an even greater period of time. We have a small group leader on my team who started with her kids in kindergarten, and she's starting this year with that same group of kids in the 4th and 5th grade group. You can't influence someone you don't know. The more you serve, the more you get to know your kids. So let's take a look at this first step at knowing your few.
So, God understands the human need to connect. How do I know? Well, he gave Adam Eve so he wouldn't be alone. Jesus surrounded himself with a few deep relationships. Paul set up the early church as a tight-knit group rather than a place. There was simply community. God created us for community. Jesus illustrated community. The church practiced community. So that's your goal, to connect the faith of your few to a community. So how do you create this community? It's really pretty simple. It means you show up. You choose to be present. That means you, 1, show up predictably. For most of you, that means you're there weekly. You can't lead a small group without trust. You can't build community without trust. And the first step to gaining the trust of your few is making sure they know you're going to be there, predictably and consistently. This is the most important thing you can do because everyone needs someone who knows their name and what's happening in their life. 2, show up mentally. It's one thing to show up physically. It's an entirely different thing to show up physically and mentally. When you show up mentally, you commit to engaging your few in meaningful discussions and to listening, really listening to what your students have to say. It means leaving email and Twitter at the door. This means knowing the content ahead of time and being mentally prepared to shed some light, some scriptural insight into their world. And lastly, show up randomly. Never underestimate the power of showing up randomly. This is a phone call, a birthday card, a baseball game, a text message, a Facebook post. These small connections may seem insignificant, but when you choose to be present in an unsuspected way outside of your weekly group time, you're creating a better connection to the community you're trying to create. And this kind of community will grow and encourage authentic faith. They'll begin to trust you when you show up predictably, show up mentally, and show up randomly. You can't be present for everyone, but you can be present for a few. That's why the best way to be present is to lead small.
All right, so the first step to leading small is to be present. The goal here is to connect the faith of your few to a community. Everyone needs someone who knows their name and knows something about them. But you can't build community without trust. So how do you do this? You show up. You show up predictably. This is your basic primary requirement as a small group leader. They need to know you're going to be there. When you show up predictably, you're consistent. You come 15 to 20 minutes before service starts. You come when scheduled. You replace yourself when needed, and you communicate with leaders. Show up mentally. Come to group prepared. Plan your small group throughout the week. Pray for your few throughout the week. We like social media and think it can be a great tool, but when you're in High Point, we want you to interact with the kids and not your Facebook page. Really listen to your kids and be ready to share spiritual insight with them. And show up randomly. When you're engaged with your few, when you make conversations with your kids and take an interest in their lives, you find out what really matters to them. Showing up randomly isn't your Sunday morning schedule. It goes beyond that. A letter in the mail, a visit to their ball game, a phone call, or a birthday card. One of my small group leaders is very gifted in this. She regularly connects with her kids through the mail, and it's a highlight and a treat to my son who's in her group. It can be a card with a personal note about how you're praying for them, a reminder about the bottom line from that previous week, or even a fun treat like a crossword puzzle or some stickers to just let them know that you're thinking about them. That simple act outside of Sunday mornings is going to have an impact. So we want to challenge you. What are some ways that you can be present this year to get to know your few more personally? Take a look at this next video.
So you have a circle of many yous with high hopes they'll think like you, talk like you, and act like you in every way. And then you meet them, and it hits. Tension. It's the inevitable tension when a group of different people with different personalities and different backgrounds come together in one place. But don't panic. Believe it or not, tension is a good thing. Tension gives you an opportunity to show that this is a safe place and how you handle conflict, hard questions, discipline, and fears. And the safer your environment is, the more honestly your few will clarify their faith in your circle because they trust you. For the most part, young kids will trust you simply because you're older. But the truth is, every year a child grows older, that trust is harder to earn. It's like they start to hold back, filter, become more grown up. So how can you earn their trust? Well, when you choose to create a safe place, that means you, 1, lead the group. Lead your group to value acceptance. Lead your group to value confidentiality. Lead your group to value honesty. If you expect someone to share openly with you, there has to be a foundation of acceptance. Honesty is the only way for your few to be themselves, share doubts, ask questions, and admit struggles. So encourage the honesty of your few. React with grace to new, sometimes shocking truths. Prove to them that your involvement in their lives is unconditional. 2, respect the process. Authentic faith is a continual process. It's not static. It's the molding, crafting, shaping, and changing of their faith through time. And this process isn't the same for everyone. Each individual is different, and every once in a while, one of your few will ask a question or make a statement about what they believe that will make you cringe. Just remember, a quick answer isn't always the best solution. Questions aren't bad, they're inevitable, so respect their process. Oh, and you don't have to have all the right answers in order to be an SGL. You can say, I don't know, but you can tell them what you do know. Share your experiences, look through the scripture together, so you can go on a journey with them. They are in the middle of a unique process of clarifying their authentic faith. 3. Guard the heart. Faith is personal. We process the most difficult times in our lives through the filter of faith, which is why as an SGL, you should expect some pretty tough, even shocking things to be revealed during small group time. Things that will create emotional tension. Your job is to live in the tension between respecting confidentiality and knowing when you need outside help. Now, there are a couple things above your pay grade, and we call them the 3 hurts. Being hurt, hurting others, or hurting themselves. If one of those is happening, it's your responsibility to guard their heart by getting help from someone in an authority position. Some risks are unpreventable, but others, well, you can do something about those. When you lead the group, respect the process, and guard the heart, you're creating a place where your few can clarify their faith in a way they never could if you were leading big. Because the best way to create a safe place is to lead small.
So the second way to cultivate an authentic faith is to create a safe place. And our goal here is that we want kids to know 2 things. First, we want them to know that church is a safe place to ask questions. And secondly, we want them to know that you as a leader are a safe person to ask those questions to. Lead your group to value acceptance, to value confidentiality, and to value honesty. And ways you can do this are to be open, be welcoming, be approachable. This is the foundation. This is where you're going to start building those relationships in your group with the kids. Respect the process. The process for these kiddos is conditional, it's continual, it's individual, and questions are inevitable. They're going to come up. Be prepared. Each child's unique. Be prepared to answer those different questions. Faith is personal. You don't have to have all the right answers. Be willing to discuss it with them, open the Bible, share from your experiences, ask a spiritual leader. Be willing to go on the journey with them. And guarding the heart. Joe mentioned the 3 hurts in the video. Those are things that may be out of your comfort level in dealing with on your own, and that's okay. The Greece campus, Nate Logan would be somebody that you could reach out to. At the Webster campus, myself, Courtney Dyer, Isaac Denton. If it's something that comes up in small group and you really just don't feel equipped to handle it by yourself, reach out and be willing to do that. And at the Irondequoit campus, Melissa or Mike Weston would be able to assist you. Understanding their phase. How do elementary kids think? And in your packet, we have a lime green handout. It's from the book, It's Just a Phase by Reggie Joyner. Just an awesome way to look at the way that kids think, and we can apply that in our small groups. They think like scientists. They want to understand the world through concrete evidence that they can test repeatedly. And one way that we implement this is through the Life app. Monthly, they're willing to test that. Weekly, they go home, they test their faith. They're challenged through that Life app. Elementary kids discover how things work through repetition and clear application. And as far as repetition, our memory verse, we go through the month and each week we repeat that verse, whether it's in small group, whether it's in large group. That verse is repeated and repeated so that it really sticks and they're able to apply that to their lives. And through clear application, we go over the bottom line and that changes week to week. That way they can go home and focus on applying that bottom line during the week. And most importantly, have fun. Have fun with these kids. Get up and move. Be creative. It's a safe place. We want it to also be a place that's fun. Every week we pass out the parent cue card, and that's a great opportunity for us to connect with parents, provide them ways to initiate conversation with children about what they are learning in High Point. So we challenge yourself this year. Challenge yourself to create a space where kids can express doubts and questions safely. Check out this next video.
The most important thing you need to lead is not your few, it's actually you. That's why as an SGL, your job goes beyond your scheduled meetings. It goes beyond bowling outings and Starbucks conversations. It goes beyond emailing parents. It's about the example you are showing them through your own life. Because your few have front row seats to your life. The question is, what are they watching? If you want your few to have healthy relationships, they need to see it in you. If you want your few to set boundaries, they need to see it in you. And if you want your few to be confident in who God made them to be, they're going to need to see that in you. When you choose to make it personal, That means you, 1, live in community. I know what you're thinking, and no, your small group of 3-year-olds does not count as your community. You are the grown-up for your few. You can share appropriate pieces of your life at appropriate times, but your few cannot be expected to fuel you in the way your own small group can. Whether hosted by your church or formed organically, your own community provides the healthy and necessary outlet for you to process faith in a way you can't with your few. The small group you have formed with your few is for them. The community you live in with your peers is for you. 2, set priorities. One of the best things you can do for your few and for yourself is to make your priorities clear. They need to see what you value, and when they see the way you prioritize your life, it might even inspire your few to think about their own priorities. Now, this should be a no-brainer. Since you're investing in your few to help them grow spiritually, you should also be invested in your own continual spiritual growth. No matter the age of your few, this is true. The only way you will effectively be able to discuss authentic faith with your few is if you are experiencing authentic faith in your own life. Remember this too. There are people in your life that should always come before your few. Yep, you heard that right. Your few should be priorities, but not the priority. This is your chance to model healthy relationships for your few. And when you set these priorities, both spiritual and relational, you emphasize and inspire a healthy lifestyle for your few. 3, be real. Okay, now this is a big one because none of those other things will really inspire authentic faith if you're not real with your few. Be real. Find ways to relate to your few without compromising who you are, because it's more important for them to see a real live person that is still growing, learning, and trying to live out authentic faith than it is for them to have another friend. When you lead small, you have time and margin to live in community, set priorities, and be real. That's why the best way to make it personal is to lead small.
So, the third way to lead your small group is to make it personal. And our goal in this is that the only way you'll effectively be able to discuss authentic faith with your few is if you are experiencing authentic faith in your own life. So some ways to do this are to live in community. Join an adult small group, community group, if you're not already in one. Challenge the kids with the gospel, with goals in their personal lives, and follow up with them. Hold them accountable. Set priorities. What do you value? Be willing to attend one, serve one. Model prayer for your few. Share praises and prayer requests. And be real. We're all still growing. Be willing to share with kids, take away some insights from them. Grow spiritually in God's word through prayer. Share how God is working in your life appropriately. And most importantly, be a role model, both in and out of small group time, whether it's in the halls at church, the parking lot at Wegmans. Watch your words that you choose to use, interactions that you have with others. Just make sure you're making good choices because they're watching. So the challenge we want to leave with you for making it personal is to ask yourself, what are your spiritual priorities? And how can you strengthen your own faith this year so that you can continue pouring into others?
So be present, create a safe place, and make it personal. 3 ways that you can cultivate authentic faith with your few this year. Through all of that, we want you to see kids through God's eyes. And in God's eyes, every kid matters. They're made by God. If you create something, it matters to you. Kids are uniquely designed by God. He knows them and knows about them. When a kid believes they're special because they're made by God, they'll grow up wanting to know the God who made them. And if your few know that you know them and care about them, you'll have built a trust that allows you to speak into their lives during the highs and lows of life. They reflect the image of God. If every kid is created in the image of God, then they have a divine capacity to believe, to create, to love, to trust, to care, to improve, and to lead. That 3rd grader in your group who's torn up about an argument with their BFF, that's because they're made in the image of God. They're designed to be relational, and they're made to care and love other people. The kindergartner who knows every lyric to Let It Go and sings it every week in your group, she's made in the image of God, and she's made to imagine and create. And if they're made by God and reflect the image of God, then they have the potential to love God, and we want to help them do that. We want to appeal to their innate wonder, discovery, and passion in High Point. Experts in our culture know how to appeal to the way kids are designed. Watch any of the latest Disney movies, listen to a new band, or just pick up an iPhone. We want to better understand the way kids are hardwired so that we can help them tap into that potential to know and love God. When you learn to see God's image in kids, it increases the potential for kids to see God. And what you do matters because we want to make more and better adult disciples. By influencing a few elementary kids in your group, their parents are able to take in a service with fewer distractions than otherwise possible. Knowing that their kids are cared for, being built into, and safe allows them to focus on their own spiritual development. And not only that, but kids don't stay kids forever. The goal of kids ministry is not only to make a mature kid, but to train kids to become adults who love God and live according to his wisdom. So keep in mind, your few aren't problems to be solved, they're people to be loved. Jesus said, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me." Jesus made every kid a pretty big deal. The way you welcome every kid every week might be the most important thing that you do. The best way to love your few is to lead small. Check out this last video.
I cannot stay silent. I will not hold back. I want to open up and let the thanks roll out. I'm overwhelmed by your love, your faithfulness at all times. When my heart was hurting, you made things all so right. I'm never gonna stop, never gonna stop. I wanna shout it out that I love Jesus. Tell the world that God is good. Sing a song that makes me happy. Shout out loud that God is good. Yeah. And I cannot stay silent. I will not hold back. I want to open up and let the thanks roll out. I'm overwhelmed by your love, your faithfulness at all times. When my heart was hurting, you made things all so right. I'm never gonna stop, never gonna stop. I wanna shout it out that I love Jesus. Tell the world that God is good. Sing a song that makes me happy. Shout out loud that God is good.
All right, thanks for sticking with us for this long. We just have one more final challenge for you, and it's about owning versus renting. Most of us start with a minimal commitment, and it's okay to start there. The problem is that most of us don't ever go beyond that first step. We volunteer like we're renters, not owners. Renting seems like a great option because that way you won't lose much. Your investment's small, but so's your return. Owners invest for a bigger return. They push to make a bigger investment in someone else's life. The more they do it, the more convinced they become over time. It's wisest to invest bigger in someone else's life because there's simply so much for you to gain. What does an owner look like when it comes to kids ministry? They show up early, they read the curriculum ahead of time, they communicate with leaders, they pick up trash off the floor, they wear the orange t-shirt, they serve every week, they attend trainings and team meetings, they talk about how much they love volunteering to their friends, and most of all, they believe that the best way for a kid to know God is to know someone who knows God. Keep in mind that what you're doing is not babysitting, it's discipleship. It's not rows, it's relationships. And it's not filling a volunteer slot, it's influencing someone's future. Be an owner. We're going to close tonight with one of my favorite quotes from the book Not Normal that I hope encourages you tonight. One day, God promises that you'll really be able to see just how worth it everything was. You're not ever going to be sorry you showed up and invested as a volunteer. You'll see whose lives were changed on your watch. You'll get a glimpse of the ripple effect that happened in people's lives as a result of how you lived yours.
Now we're going to take this time, we're going to close this section, and we are going to split. We're going to have the Webster crew over here. We're going to have Greece stay in the middle, and we're going to have Irondequoit slide right over to this side. Nate Logan will be joining the Greece crew, and we will be joining the group. So the quicker you move, the quicker we can be finished. Thank you.
Thank you.